Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Ingram Jones and I have with me a world-class fighter, a man that knows Gennady Golovkin, Canelo, and Kell Brook, Carson Jones. Carson, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm as far as the circumstances go. I just had some dental work done on me, so I'm in a little bit of pain, but I'm still okay to talk to Mr. Ingram.
Thank you, I appreciate that, Carson. Now, first and foremost, for the people who don't know who Carson Jones is, give us the record.
My record is 38 wins. I got so many fights, it's kind of hard for me to remember, but I got 38 wins, 11 losses, 3 draws. Actually, no, 39 wins. I just fought 2 weeks ago, so I got 39 wins now. Looking for my 40th win in October. As everybody knows, over there in England, I fought Kell Brook twice, and I'm good friends with Gennady Golovkin. We're stablemates, so I think I have a pretty good insight on this fight coming up next week.
Okay, so I don't want to start with you there because that's the juicy part of the show. What I really want to talk to you about is a few things I need to clear up within myself. Now, I will be brutally honest about some things, Carson. First of all, there are times, I support you, and there are times I've watched you fight in fights and thought to myself, man, this guy can win this fight. This guy's got the fight in the bag. Why can't he push on? So now, tonight, I'm going to get the opportunity to ask you some questions and then be able to really chop it up with you and find out what really was going on behind the scenes. And the first time I came across you and really watched you fight was, I remember before they were talking about you for the Kell Brook fight, I remember seeing a photograph of yourself and Canelo Alvarez sparring. Talk to me about that. I know we're doing a lot of work with Canelo at the point. Talk to us about that.
Well, I sparred Canelo. I forget which fight it was. I think it was actually for the Mosley fight, but I wasn't brought in as a sparring partner. He actually came to my camp where I was working at in Big Bear, which I've been working there for, I guess, since maybe 2009 was my first time there. I'm Big Bear at the Summit, so he just happened to come out there to train for the Mosley fight. It was the Mosley fight or the Gomez fight, whichever one. And I was out there already, and he just asked, could we get some work? Well, we worked once, and it was good work, so we just kept on working together. But there's a video they show on YouTube. Actually, I'm not really too fond of that, but there's a video they show, and they only show the first round. And everybody knows that is familiar with me and familiar with my boxing style. I lose the first round, regardless if it's a fight. I lose the first round to everybody. I will lose the first round to my little daughter right here if we were in a fight. So they only showed the first round, but they didn't show the rest of the sparring, and the rest of the sparring would show you how I got in that you know what I mean. So, but we worked together quite a bit, and I've among several other fighters.
So tell me the other fighters that you've moved around with before we move on to your actual professional career.
I'm sorry, say it one more time. You
Tell me more about the guys that you've moved around in the ring with, apart from just Canelo.
Oh, I moved around with everybody. Miguel Cotto, Canelo, of course, Triple G, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., a few other world champions. I mean, I moved around. I flew overseas to spar David Avenetian that just beat Sugar Shane Mosley. I flew with Australia to spar one of the up-and-comers named Zach Dunn. So, I mean, I pretty much sparred everybody. I sparred Shane Mosley. So, it's, I got the experience.
Okay, one of the things that I've heard put right at your door is, oh, Carson Jones, he's a very good sparring partner. He's very good at sparring, but when it comes to the big fights, he can't reproduce that. What are your thoughts about those comments, and do you think that there's more to do than just the sparring and the fights? Do you think there's an in between that a lot of fight fans are missing out on?
Actually, I've never heard that because when I look at myself, I'm more of a when I look at myself, I see I'm a better fighter than I am a sparring partner.
Okay.
Oftentimes, I mean, there's fighters that you see that take butt whoopings in sparring, but they do phenomenal in the fight.
Right.
Some fighters are gym fighters, and some fighters are real fighters like in the ring.
Right.
I feel like I'm one of the fighters that can fight in the ring because I mean, I have trouble with like a lot of guys in sparring that I wouldn't have trouble in with a fight, and it's just a circumstance because you have different size gloves. You're wearing no headgear, no shirt, so it's a different ball game.
Right.
As opposed to sparring, you're wearing 16-ounce gloves or 18s or even 20s if you're talking about Mr. Triple G, and no headgear or with the headgear. So it's two different ball games.
So what are the things that you hear in the media about yourself? Because for me, I'm always about trying to find out the truth, trying to say, well, okay, this is what the media are saying, but this is the truth because it's coming out of what Carson Jones is saying, as opposed to just taking what the media say, because the media can be very biased at times. If you're on certain networks and you're not the home fighter or the fighter they're supporting, you know yourself, they'll cheer for the other guy, they'll say the other guy's throwing all these punches, and then you're the away fighter, you're the B-side fighter, you're never throwing any punches until you end up knocking the A fighter out, and then they start saying, oh, what a great performance from fighter number B, and you're like, well, hold a second.
Yeah.
You all for the fight, that guy was doing it. I mean, Pacquiao fight with Marquez, perfect example. Pacquiao was doing everything right, Marquez was doing everything wrong, until Marquez caught him, and then it was like, oh, Marquez! So, for you, how does that all work with you in your career?
I mean, I'm what you just said is I'm the prime example of that guy. Everybody counts me out until I end up doing the unthinkable. I've done the unthinkable several times in my career. One nameable, I guess you can put it as Kell Brook in our first fight. When many thought that I beat Kell Brook, nobody thought that I would even come out of that fight alive. Not to mention, one judge having it a draw. So I mean, I kind of feed on that, being that dude. I hope people underestimate me, and that gives me more, motivation and gives me more, more of a spirit to do what I got to do in the ring.
Media is a very interesting thing. When you make a statement, it sticks with you. And I actually made the statement I actually picked you to beat Kell Brook by late KO. Because I felt that you were going to work his body, break him down, get inside, and get on top of him. And I thought you were going to stop him late. And you nearly almost did.
Yeah, it almost happened. It was close.
That was around the time where I think Khan got knocked out by Garcia, if I'm around that time. So, it was that close to happening. Talk to us about the Kell Brook fight. Specifically, I want to know, there seemed to be some really bad blood between yourself and Kell Brook. Was that for the cameras? Was that for the media? Or was that really genuine?
Well, when it comes to the fighting game, I never dislike my opponent because we're in there for the same reason. We're in there to better ourselves, and we're in there to get a paycheck, and we're in there to, further our careers. So I never do anything for the camera. The bad blood was just because at the time, I simply didn't like the dude. He pretty much rubbed me the wrong way to begin with. When we got to the press conference, he was just popping off at the mouth, and I didn't really like that too much. So, nothing I do is for the cameras. If I like, at the end of the day, we're both fighters and we're both here for the same reason. And after the fight, we got to go home to our families. You know what I mean? So that had nothing to do with it. But you got two guys in there that are, gung ho, and they both want to fight and they both want to win. And I think that every time that makes for a great fight. And that's what everybody got that night. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. You both were quite steamed up. I remember you If I'm right, was that the one where you came to the press? Were you wearing a tuxedo for the press conference?
Yeah.
That was the one. I remember, yes, I remember it well. And yeah, there was a lot of back and forth between yourself and Kell. When you first met Kell Brook physically, what was your impression of him?
He was I can't say he was smaller because we're both considered big welterweights. I've always been actually I didn't even start my career at welterweight. I started my career my first fight was a welterweight, 149, but then I was from 160 to 154. So I'm known as a bigger welterweight, and people are surprised when I even tell them that I can make 147 pounds. So the size was the big. I wasn't surprised by his size. What surprised me was how he seemed kind of timid and just outright scared, I guess. And it could have been because I was barking, and trust me, I don't consider myself a scary dude at all. So I couldn't believe he was scared of this beautiful face that you see right in front of you right now. So that's probably what surprised me the most.
So the fight itself, I try to turn the volume down when I watch a fight because we get some very excited commentators and I get the side A and the side B. Early rounds, Kell's landing big power shots on you. What are your thoughts?
There's two guys in there that are fighting. I wasn't the only guy in there that wanted to win. Of course, he had to do what he had to do early, but the game plan was to kind of just beat on him now. Of course, I took a little bit too long to start, but he was strong at first. So we had to get him tired in order for him to kind of slow down a little bit, and then I could land my shots. Because who knows, if I would have went in there just throwing bombs at the beginning, maybe I could have caught him early, or maybe I would have got caught early and ended up getting stopped. Who knows? So which it's very unlikely that I would have got stopped. But because I have a granite chin, I pride myself on that, I guess. Maybe I shouldn't because I have a shorter career as other guys that take less punishment. But, I have a pretty good chin.
Guys, you had Abel Sanchez in your corner, correct?
Yeah.
So, Abel, what were you working on with Abel for this fight, for that first fight?
Working on fighting a boxer. Me and Abel have been working together maybe 3 or 4 years before this fight even came up. So we don't necessarily work on a particular fighter. He works on his fighter's strengths. So whatever you do best, he wants to sharpen it. You know what I mean? So whatever I did best, he wants to sharpen it and make it, he wants to apply it to the fight that we're walking into on whichever day we're walking into.
Right. So, and in terms of the game plan and being execute the game plan, how was it for you?
Well, it was great, obviously, but I think I started just slightly too late, maybe 2 rounds too late. I just started a little bit too late, and that's just because I was holding out a little bit just because I honestly didn't want to get caught. Because Kell Brook I'm not going to say he's the hardest puncher, but he's very accurate.
Right.
And honestly, if you look early in my career, you can see that I move my head a lot more than I do now. I kind of just stand there and block on my arms, block on my hands.
Yep.
But I don't necessarily do what I used to do. So maybe if I would have been moving my head a little bit more, he could have got a little bit more tired, and I could have probably came out with a victory. But
Okay, so down the stretch, Kell starts to tire. You start to put the pressure on him. Do you think it was because he was tight at the weight? Was it the fact that you were working his body well? What do you think it was for you?
I think it was the work we put in. I'm not gonna, everybody wanted to make an excuse like he didn't train well. Well, you don't have a big fight like that, and you just sit at home on the couch all day eating Twinkies. You know what I mean? He trained hard for that fight, and he was ready for that fight. Just like I trained hard for that fight, and I was ready for that fight. So that wasn't the reason. The reason was I was just well prepared, and I wanted it. I wanted it that day. I just didn't end up coming out with the decision.
What did you take away from that first fight about Kell Brook?
Well, seeing where he is now, I take away that I gave him the wake up call that he needed, and congrats to him. We kind of went two different ways after that fight. Mentally, I just was kind of not there, for lack of a better term, I guess. But like I said, we're on our way back up. My last fight was at 150, which is like right next to 47. So I'm moving back down to 147 pounds and hopefully make a name for myself and get some more big fights.
Now, I was talking to somebody over on Twitter the other day, and I was thinking to myself, I just wish I could have spoke to Carson Jones about this because, he's saying, oh, well, Kell Brook, he wasn't fit for that fight against Carson Jones, and in the rematch, he handled Carson Jones. I'm like, what, excuse me? Carson Jones was still giving him problems, at light middleweight. So let's talk about the second fight that was at light middleweight. Talk to me about the build up to that fight, because I heard different rumours and different stories, and things were going on in your personal life. You didn't have a trainer, and all sorts of stuff. So take me back to that second fight for a moment.
I had a trainer. I was training in Houston with Bobby Benton, which is a great trainer. What happened was, it was the fight originally was at 147.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if it was a week or two before. I got a call from maybe it was my manager or somebody called me, and they asked how I felt about raising the weight to 153, I think it was, saying Kell couldn't make 147, and I was just like, oh my God. And the money they offered me, I love it. Eddie Hearn has treated me very well. Don't get me wrong, but on this particular fight, that was some BS of what they. I'm not even gonna mention what they paid me to go up five more pounds, but it was some BS, and they paid pretty much. They gave me a little bit extra to go up 5 more pounds, and I think that had a lot to do with the weight difference. Kell couldn't make the weight, and I felt him a lot stronger that night, and obviously it showed.
So the stories about you not having a trainer, that was incorrect then?
Yeah, I had a trainer. I was training with a guy named Bobby Benton. He's a great trainer, a great friend of mine as well. So he's out of Houston.
So where was Abel Sanchez when that had happened?
I'm not going to get into that. There's a long story that happened with my former promoters, and we'll just stop at that, I guess.
Okay, no problems. So are you back with Abel now, or you're not with Abel anymore?
Yeah, I'm back with Abel. I went back to Abel last year on a Brian Rose fight, and been back with him ever since. Obviously, I've only fought twice since the Brian Rose fight. But
yeah. And you'll go back and listen to it at some point. I think I was quite scathing of your performance against Brian Rose, simply because I thought I was expecting you to do a lot more based on what I saw of the Kell Brook fight. I thought, hey, Carson Jones, if he does that against Kell Brook, there's no way Brian Rose should be able to do what he does. So, that's what I thought, and then obviously I saw Brian Rose fight.
Sometimes, I guess I don't rise to the occasion. I can't really say much because I lost the fight. I guess I don't rise to the expectations of what people, expect, considering they saw the first, what I did in the first Brook fight, and that's what everybody looks at, because even before the Brook fight, I was ripping people's hearts out. I was at 147, and 147 is my weight division. I even told Abel that's why I moved back to 147. 147 pounds is my weight division. That's my best weight division. I was knocking guys' heads off. I had 8 straight knockouts, moving down to 147. And just going up to 157 and fighting Brian Rose the second time, it just wasn't smart. He had a lot more energy, and I should have maybe demanded, either more money or demanded, him to come down in weight. But it is what it is.
Okay, so you just say Brian Rose was just better on that night.
He was better than I, and I probably didn't work hard enough because I wasn't even tired at the end of the fight. Maybe I'm a little bit too tentative in throwing my punches. You know, maybe I wasn't pulling the trigger, I guess you can say.
Let me ask you a question straight out. When you get invited to come and fight in the UK, American fighters or abroad fighters, what's the stipulations? I've always want to ask, it's not just you, I've asked most fighters this, do you get offered the situation where it's like, alright, this is a situation, you are the B-side, you're coming in here to fight, you can go one of two ways, you can come on, you can do 12 rounds, and, you know, we'll pay you a little extra if you put on a performance, or, you know, this is the stand. What is it?
Nobody ever, because, I mean, honestly, the only person I deal with over there is Eddie Hearn.
Right.
And it never happened. There's never like a bonus of you put on a great performance. Because I already know I'm going to put on a great. They already know I'm going to put on a great performance, in the fight. And I mean, if I do, I'm going to get a bigger fight after. But I mean, me coming over there, it's always a you know a fairly decent paycheck.
Well, I wouldn't come over there. It's pounds and dollars, isn't it? So I mean, pounds always pays well.
Well, no, I'm not getting into that. You know, it's we got IRS out here, so we're not gonna get into that.
We better not.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's always a decent paycheck, and you know, every fight that I go into, I think I can win. I never go into a fight thinking, oh, I'm gonna go in here and get knocked out. So I always think I can win.
I mean, I asked the question. It's not being disrespectful of you, Carson. I'm just trying to find out like the process, because we hear about fighters coming over. I've seen some fighters come over and thinking, this guy ain't throwing no punches. This guy ain't doing what he normally does. Why is this guy retiring on the stool when we know he's normally a fighter that comes out and fights? So I was like, well, are there backhanders going on? Are there whispers in the corners? What happens? Does it happen in the dressing room? So, from your experience as a fighter, have you ever experienced any of that yourself?
No, because I'm not a quitter. I'd rather go out on a stretcher than quit in a fight. I'm always coming to fight, and I'm never in a boring fight. Have you ever seen me in a boring fight? No, I'm never in a boring fight, and that's
I've seen you on a fight where I almost threw my mobile phone at the screen, which was the Brian's second fight.
Oh, okay. I accept that. I take that. I almost threw my phone at the screen watching the replay, so it's all good. No, but I always come to fight. You know, I never come as one of those, you know, opponent type guys. Even though that's what people label me as, and that's what they're bringing me over to be. I never come over as one of those. I guess I'm just a mentally strong, mentally tough dude.
That's good to know. At least we know that from you. And I guess this is an opportunity for me to get to know Carson Jones outside of what the media paint you to be or what the media write up you to be. Because I get to know who you are as a fighter. I get to learn a little bit more about you, your personality. I think other boxing writers or supporters in the UK will get to know a bit more about who Carson Jones is as well. And not just Carson Jones, the guy who came over and fought Kell Brook, or Carson Jones, the guy that came over and fought Brian Rose the second time. And we're getting to know a little bit more about you. So if you please don't think my questions are being offensive or anything like that. It's just trying to find out more information. So okay, so the second fight with Rose, you know, it doesn't go the way you want it to go. You've gone away, you've come back, you've had a win. Talk to us about this recent win you've had.
Well, you know, anybody can go on Boxer and look at the opponent. It was just a tune-up fight. But the main thing was to prove the IBF is going to put me back in the ratings, and that was the main thing, to prove that I can make even close to 147. I weighed in 150 pounds even. So that was the main goal, is to prove that I can come back at that weight and still compete, and that's what I showed. I did.
Do you know, something's just gone flashing past my mind, and forgive me if I'm wrong for thinking this. IBF, Errol Spence, and yourself. Could that fight possibly happen?
I think after Errol Spence's performance, I would take the fight. and there's no way in hell I would say that would be an easy fight. But I would take it. For one, it'll be a good paycheck, and that's what we're doing it for. We're not fighting for free. But I think I put myself, especially as far as my punching power, I think I have I can possibly beat anybody. Like I said, it would be tough. But I think that's a little far fetched. I think he's looking for bigger fights. Maybe even Kell Brook after this fight. If he goes back to welterweight, I don't think he can make welterweight anymore. But we'll see after this one next week.
I heard a story from one of our American correspondents, and he said what he said in America is that Kell Brook will vacate the IBF title, and then probably will retire after the Golovkin fight.
I mean, that's up to Kell Brook. I don't know. If he vacates it, of course, I'm pretty sure due to the politics of boxing, Errol Spence will get the first shot at it, or whoever's rated at the top of it, 1 and 2 with it, because that's just the rules and the mandatories how that works. But whatever Kell Brook decides to do is his choice.
But then, if Errol Spence were to get the first shot, becomes a world champion, you don't think your name would get into the mix of that?
If I'm the number 1 or number 2 mandatory, yeah, probably so. Or if he just wants to fight a
voluntary.
If it's just one of his, if it's not a non-mandatory challenger,
yeah.
I mean, of course, if I'm in the top 10, he can choose me. But I'm sure he'll go after the bigger names so there can be bigger money involved. You know what I mean?
True, but then you think about it. You're the guy that fought Kell Brook. You're the guy that fought. You fought Rose. There's a record there. There's a lot of prestige in fighting you, because if you're looking at comparisons, he went and fought Leonard Bundu.
Yeah.
I know Bundu was the guy that was going to fight to get the shot at the IBF, but the Bundu fight, the comparisons of what Thurman did to Bundu, then, could he stop Carson Jones? We know Carson Jones can punch. We know Carson Jones can work on the inside. Those things get asked.
Well, hey, those are fights that I pray for. You know what I mean? Those are fights that I pray for. So if it happens, I'm all for it. You know what I mean?
So you'd be ready if that fight was
I'm always ready. Trust me.
That sounds
I'm always ready.
Okay, so let's talk. If you had the warm-up fight, people want to know, and obviously I want to know, the fight between Gennady Golovkin and Kell Brook. Now, I spoke to Darnell Boone, who's currently sparring with Gennady at the moment, and he was telling me that Kell Brook made some statements about how he doesn't have any respect for Gennady's punching power. You sparred with Gennady. What is Gennady's punching power like?
It's out of this world. I just feel like this. Kell Brook never hurt me. Now, of course, he hurt me in our fights. It's rare at that level of fighting that you don't get hurt. We hurt each other with 8-ounce gloves on. But I've been hurt more in sparring with Gennady, wearing 20-ounce gloves with me having a rib protector on, than I have with Kell Brook fighting in 8-ounce gloves. So if that tells you anything,
that's telling me something.
The power.
I've heard from Julius Jackson, and he told me Gennady's the real McCoy in terms of punching power.
Yeah,
I've heard from Darnell Boone that he is a real McCoy in punching power. And now you're telling me this man has got some serious punching power. Does Kell Brook really want to feel the power of Gennady Golovkin?
I don't think anybody wants to feel the power. I don't think anybody wants to feel the power of any other fighter, let alone Gennady Golovkin. But that's what Kell signed up for, and that's what he's going to get next Saturday night.